Thanks so much, sir. Anything else from Public Safety, Kristen?
No, that was fun. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Oh my goodness.
Before we move away, I just want to
Please.
re-echo that as we try to enhance this important piece of legislation, that we don't forget about daytimes, even if it's only by reference, and hopefully we can be responsive to our neighbors and do something that limits leaf blowers to 3 months rather than 12 months a year.
Thanks for that, David.
Yeah,
And
that's a whole other can of worms.
Kristen, are you all going to meet in April?
We are. I will, I'll get back with you on the date.
Okay. Could you let us know next week, maybe?
Yep. I'll let someone know before next week.
Understood. Okay.
Yes.
So tentatively, Public Safety will meet in April. So Jared, that's over to you. Hi. Public Works, please.
Good evening. I'm going to try holding the mic tonight. I'm bending over. This month at our committee meeting, we heard from our Swarthmore College student, our research fellow, Gina Saito, again on our pay-as-you-throw waste survey. There were 542 responses and 250 individual comments, and data is being compiled for the Public Works and Parks and Recreation Committee so we can examine interest in pursuing a program. Our styrofoam recycling discussion was tabled for this upcoming month because the Public Works Department did not have time to head up to the recycling facility between our spring leaf cleanups, which you can call the Borough Hall, to schedule. And oh, it's already over. Never mind. Scratch that from the record.
Next year.
They instead have begun mulch delivery, so if you'd like some leaf mulch from our facility, please call Borough Hall to schedule that drop-off. And the rest of what we talked about in the meeting, we're going to talk about on the agenda. So, firstly, we'd like to talk about the restroom structure at Little Crum Creek Park. Just as a refresher on the project, the estimated total cost for the project was around $250,000. That was $190,000 for the structure and an estimated $60,000 for the site prep. As of right now, we have secured donated funds from the Swarthmore Centennial Foundation in the amount of $190,000, which covers the purchase of the structure, and Swarthmore College has also donated an additional $30,000 towards the site prep costs. There is, as we saw tonight, a bunch of support for the project, and it's much needed for the volunteers that work in the park, as well as to increase vibrancy and usage of the park. At the meeting, at our most recent Public Works meeting, we heard from residents regarding their concerns about the location and the final fit and finish, as well as that final site prep cost, is going to be unknown to us until we identify a final location, which has not been done as of yet. That is highly dependent on our ability to tie into the sewer lines in the park. There is a Swarthmore sewer line underneath Crescent, and there's a Springfield line that goes underneath the park kind of near the creek. If we tie into the Springfield sewer system, we're going to have a sewer feed with Springfield Township. If we tie into our line, that's going to be a part of our bill, a little bit easier to manage. So we'd like to seek authorization tonight to have our borough engineer establish the final location for the restroom facility, taking into consideration the residents' comments as well as the viability of tying into those sewer lines.
Is that a motion for us to consider?
I will make a motion to authorize Panoni to establish the location of the restroom facility in Little Crum Creek Park.
That's a
Second.
recommended location. We still have to approve.
I think the recommended location will ultimately will be the final location, because they're in, just so everyone's aware, as I provided you, there's only a very small portion of the park that this can go in because of floodplain. And I think we were all in agreement that where the current gazebo was the ultimate location. And I think the residents that had attended the Public Works meeting also were okay with that location. that's the most feasible location, and I think that's where I was recommending, but we actually need Pinoni to say, yes, that's gonna work, provide us an actual plan so we can move this forward, because we did commit to the residents that live there, that once we had the final site location plotted, we would show it, we would share that with them. Am I correct? No.
That sounds, yeah, we're trying to make this an open back and forth with the neighborhood, and that's why we started speaking about this project so early and often.
So if I'm Erin Johnson at Pinoni Firm, I understand that my assignment is to validate that the gazebo location is possible
Yes.
and advisable for a restroom.
Yes.
Okay, is that acceptable to you?
That'd be acceptable.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Other discussion or questions for Jared?
Thanks for doing this.
It was very exciting. Just a question. So we have 220 out of $250,000 in project costs identified and externally sourced without borough funds, $30,000 or more, balance that's unfunded right now. Can you fill us in? Is that portion of the bill expected to come to the borough?
No.
No, and we don't, again, the site prep estimates, it's purely an estimate.
Sure.
The prefab company told us to expect between 10 and 80,
Okay,
and 60 was our, I believe, conservative estimate.
okay.
So we're
So all
expecting to
in,
be lower.
220 could be close to the actual
It is feasible.
install.
Yes.
Okay.
It is feasible.
But if it's not,
So
then that
I have-
balance of that cost is
I have-
ours.
creatively figured out a way to fund this without borough funds. The gazebo is being removed. Now that's being removed for a sewer project. We have informed the CCA that we don't want you to put in a gazebo. Give us the money and we will decide what we're gonna do with our park.
Okay.
So,
Well done, Bill.
Okay.
so that's where we're at.
Okay, good. So there's an amenity, and
Yes.
there's a vibrancy, and there's an alignment to our big picture goals about having utilization, inclusion, and activations in the park. And rather than in a gazebo structure, it's through a restroom structure, and we have yet another collaborating contributor that's contributing to that. Okay, awesome, 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 awesome. Great value to our community. And anything else for discussion?
Don't we have Sue Kelly's name on that gazebo?
No. Sue Kelly and I had that conversation the other day.
All
We're in the
right.
bathroom after.
Wow. Lucky you. Lucky
Sue
you.
Kelly Lou, I like it.
There you go. Okay. All in favor, kindly vote aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, the motion carries. Jared,
Jared,
Sue, and others,
if I could.
congratulations.
Eram is here, and you put a ton of work into this. So,
Thank you so much. Bill, thanks for the
Absolutely.
as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jared. Okay, what else have we got for tonight?
Okay, so one step closer in that regard. We have two other matters to discuss tonight. First being the 2025 county aid allocation. This is an annual resolution that we pass in order to accept our funds from the county. So I'll make a motion to consider Resolution 03-2025 to obtain our 2025 county aid allocation.
Second.
Thank you kindly. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Delaware County. Thank you, Jared.
Okay.
Motion carries. Last one?
And another annual program for our consideration. Every year, the Public Works Department puts out an RFP to do a sewer cleaning, jetting, and inspection of one of our sewer zones. There are several zones, there are 7 zones. And this year, we're examining Zone 1. So I would like to, and then we did this last year as we do every year.
Second.
So I'll make a motion to, I'll make a motion to consider the release of the 2025 sewer cleaning RFP for Zone 1.
Thank you so much, Jared. And David, would you like to second that
Second
motion?
is fine.
Very good. So over the course of 7 years, 7 zones in our borough get camera scoped as a part of proactive preventative maintenance to prevent any large-scale cracks or other structural concerns that could cause more expensive and more disruptive fails fail points in our sewers, particularly tree roots, right? So we really want to be proactive and fix those things when they can be done with a coating or another small intervention rather than something costly and disruptive. Okay, so we've got the motion, we've got the second. Any other questions or discussion on this topic? Okay, all in favor, kindly say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Jared, anything else for tonight?
That is all I have. Our next meeting is going to be 9 a.m. on the 17th.
Okay, April 17th, 9 a.m. Thank you so much, Jared, and everyone who contributed. Okay, this is our second public comment period. Just like we did in the beginning, kindly come up, and even if you said your name first thing, please do. Make it easy on Elise and the rest of us. So, Dottie, would you like to show us how it's done? It's name, address, and remarks in 3 minutes or under, if you could. Thanks so much.
Dottie Lee, 305 Chestnut Avenue, Swarthmore. This is a question out of my ignorance, not stupidity, but not having the knowledge. When you explained why the Borough Council solicitor would meet with the college lawyer to come up with whatever it was you were talking about at that point.
So I don't think I said
Let's
that.
let Dottie make her comment.
Oh,
So, because I can imagine that we'll have so many people with good Q&A. So Dottie, kindly articulate your question if you would.
The proper language.
Oh, I don't understand who's representing the neighbors in the situation with the college, with the Borough Council attorney meeting with the college attorney. And are you representing Borough Council or are you representing the people? Do you remember that part of the conversation tonight?
Dottie, I'm going to invite you to make the comment, but not get the response right this second, because we're going to make a comment, but Bill and anyone else who feels that a comment may be directed directly toward them, could you kindly take the initiative to close the loop
Is
with
that
the
how it
resident?
works? Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
okay, but the question is out there, and that was it for this time around? Thank you. Okay, thanks, Dottie. So- Okay. Welcome back. Matthew? All right, Matthew.
Matt Rufino, 213 North Princeton. I think what you may have been talking about is when Mr. Webb was talking earlier about the process, I heard something to the fact that the college lawyers will put together a draft text amendment.
Yeah.
It will then be reviewed either by the solicitor or with the solicitor. So that may have been a point of her question as to whether there is some meeting between the college attorney as well as the borough solicitor as to the text that's being proposed. Try and interpret that. That was my interpretation of what you may be talking about.
Much better than me.
With respect to the 4 requests for information that were made to the college, I'd ask that if it's not already continued or subsumed within your request about the noise that is going to be used on that college, if that ordinance were to pass, we would be hearing public announcements until 11 o'clock on the weekends? Not happening. Like, that is incredibly intrusive. So that's immediately what I thought of when I was reading over the ordinance of starting forward. Like, no, this is not happening. That is out of character in Swarthmore. But I did also hear something concerning, is that this Cunningham project doesn't necessarily just concern College Ave, North Princeton Ave, but it sounds like if there was a text amendment to be approved, it would be in effect for more open uses or institutional use fields, which doesn't just simply include Cunningham Field. It potentially would include SRS, the field at Cades, Henderson Field. So potentially lights on Cunningham Field could lead to lights on Henderson Field in your backyard or your front yard lighting up. So this is not just a really nugget or a close issue to two streets. This is actually a very community concern that you should be concerned about. That if lights are allowed one place, lights will be showing up in your front lawn as well.
Thank you, Ben. Others, come on back up.
David Haas at 535 Riverview again. I just wanted to express my extreme disappointment on behalf of myself and our neighbors for the 4 council members who would not vote to even give us a letter of support. That's a bare minimum that we could possibly request of you. Councilmember Terrian, no disrespect, but you sought out Mr. David Tone's opinion. You didn't knock on my door. You didn't knock on any of our neighbors' door. Nobody. What? I think you have an obligation as a member of council to seek opinions beyond just the developer who's looking to change a residential classification to commercial, and you didn't do that, and that's disappointing to me. Councilmember Seymour, it's hard for me to sit and listen to you and respectfully mistakenly say that you cannot consider history, you have to only consider what's before you. That's wrong. That standard is for the zoning hearing board. Council can and respectfully should consider historical actions with respect to this property, because what you are countenancing is a developer who 25 years ago more bought this property, testified at the original hearings that he never intended to use it for residential use, tore down the fence, cut off the electricity, cut off the power, painted the entire thing brown and let it go abandoned. And what you are doing by not taking any position is taking a position in favor of allowing a developer to wait it out 25 years, if that's what it takes, to get a change in a residential zoning classification that they created the hardship. And to hear, Mr. David Tone tell you that there are car crashes once every 9 months into that property, I vehemently disagree with that. So I think the 4 council members, very respectfully, I appreciate your service, I really do. But it's clear to me in listening to the exchange that you're not well enough steeped in the history of this property to make an informed decision about not taking a position on what this developer has done in the 25 or some years. And I would respectfully request that you reopen consideration of taking a position so that you can educate yourselves. I found the brief that was filed and the court decisions. If I can find it, I think it behooves you to educate yourselves on why this property is an eyesore now. It's NRC's fault that it's an eyesore. And what you're doing by not taking a position is saying, that's okay. We weren't here and it's ugly now, without looking at the reason why it's ugly. I would simply respectfully request that you reopen it amongst yourselves. We would be happy to give you that history. I'll leave you with a copy of this. If you read this, I don't think you vote that way.
Thank you, Mr. Haas.
And what's to stop him from buying a house on Fairview or buying Dr. Russell's house on the corner and saying, let me wait 30 years and then let that go abandoned and then submit to a new council. I appreciate your patience. I'm sorry I went over. And that's all. I thank you for your time.
Understood. Thanks, Mr. Haas. Others for public comment today? Let's see. Come on up.
Speaking of bathrooms, I really want to say thank
Sue,
you.
what's your address before you tell us about the bathroom?
Okay. Susan Kelly, 339 Vassar Avenue.
Thank you.
Here we go. I really want to thank Bill Webb, who since the day he came to Swarthmore as borough manager has been a champion of this bathroom. Behind the scenes, everyone's, so, it was well needed. Thanks to the Public Works Committee, and especially thanks to Erin Hartung. Please stand up and let people know. She has done yeoman's work with the Centennial Foundation for months, digging up, comparing things, doing all kinds of research, meeting with us to see what we need. It's been great. So there are a lot of people who will be thankful for this, so thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Sue. Thanks, elders. Others for public comment this evening. This is our last public comment for this evening. I have to wait a whole week if you want to talk again in public comment period. But sincerely, thank you to everybody for your just really sharing of your sincere care for the community and giving your input tonight and ongoing. So Marty, that moves us over to you.
Yeah, just a quick comment.
Marty, turn your microphone on, please.
Sorry.
Could you give us a sound check, please?
I'm off all night.
Thank you so much.
I just want to thank Sue Kelly for the dedication that she's shown at Little Chrome. None of this would be happening if it weren't for the work, the time, the effort, and the heart that she's put in to that location. So we owe you a ton. And I really appreciate you bringing the one issue to council that everybody seems to be able to agree on. So,
Gold star.
everybody wants about
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Sue. Anything else for us tonight, Marty?
No, I think I've said my piece.
All right, beautiful. Phil, how about for you?
Well, I'll see if I can keep this under an hour.
All right, here we go.
So I have two quick things. We've discussed making an application to DCED under the Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer Grants to do stormwater improvements at Yale Avenue by Strathaven Condos. We've heard from folks from the condos who support this. Again, when it rains, severe rains, they get damage from the rains because the stormwater is inadequate in that area. So I'm requesting a motion from council to authorize consideration of resolution 4 of 2025, which would authorize us to apply for this grant, understanding that it is a 15% match of the $200,000 request.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, David. Other questions or discussion? This is what we heard about from Swarthmore, Strathaven Condo a couple months ago. Okay.
Yes.
All in favor? Kind of go aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks so much, Bill. What else you got?
The next thing is our 2025 road paving project is out for bid. Springfield Township has taken the lead on that this year. We're small. We don't do a lot of paving, so it is really helpful that we piggyback on the Springfield and Marple contract because they do a tremendous amount of paving, so that really helps us with our price. So this is just an informational thing that the bid is out. Bids will be accepted on May 6th. They will be open at Springfield that date. And then on the 12th, I will bring the recommended contractor from Panoni for you to authorize that contract.
So no council action needed, but point of information for us
Point of
for tonight. Is there a defined area that we're paving for this?
I do not, to be honest, I don't have that right in front of me. I can get that from you.
Okay, thank you much. Phil, anything else for tonight?
I have nothing.
Okay.
No. Would you like me to answer the public comment?
If you don't mind. I
Okay.
think that's kindly of you.
So, I know
Dottie
comment is
and
generally
Matthew's
just that.
procedural question.
But we had two folks who had questions. So, the way a text amendment works is because an applicant is requesting that, their attorney drafts that because there's cost associated with that. If we draft it, our attorney has to pay, or we pay him to draft it. In this case, the applicant would draft it, they pay our attorney to review the draft, which then goes to council. So it's not and they don't necessarily meet, but it's the applicant's attorney does the draft, and then our attorney reviews that draft, before it goes to the governing body to make a decision as to whether they are okay with this moving forward through the process outlined by the NPC, which would then go to the planning commissions of Swarthmore and Delaware County.
And if I can just add to that, when we as council members come up with language, we send our language to our solicitor for review before it comes to full council to make sure that we've dotted our i's and crossed our t's.
So this isn't somewhere, it's not a nefarious thing that we're just letting the college draft an ordinance that benefits them. It's, they came to us with an idea, and we thought well enough to say, okay, well, we need to see language. So why should you, as a borough resident, pay to have Bob Scott draft that language? So they draft the language, and then it goes through the process. This governing body may say, we don't like your language, we're done, we don't want it. But that's how the text amendment works when it comes from an outside body. Just as if someone were to come in and say they want a map revision. Well, they pay for all of that. And then it goes through the legal process.
So, Bill, Megan, thank you for that, and thanks for getting the answer without a whole bunch of stilted back and forth and long delay. So from a process perspective, the process being asked of the college is neither more or less lenient than anyone else, any of us with a bright idea. And actually, the majority of the zoning changes that I've seen while I've been on council, they have come from private citizens or groups of private citizens or entities. So what Bill is describing, right, that process, the solicitor is the person who's thinking, how does this hang together with the rest of the code in the town? Does this make sense? Is this going to do what it is meant to do? But then ultimately, it's the responsibility with recommendations from borough and county planning commissions who have expertise in this area, plus council, who council's responsibility is not to be an expert in writing zoning code, but it is to be listening and paying close attention and thinking about what it is that the community wants. So I think each of these layers of oversight has its own value that it ought to play, but none of that gets started until there's some text, something concrete to respond to. So that'll be coming around the corner in the next month meeting cycle, I'd imagine, that we can all get a first look at. So what is the text? What is the current text? What is the proposed new text? And what's the difference between the two? And starting to hash that out. So thanks for that, Bill.
And just so the public's aware, once council moves that text forward, any time an ordinance gets moved forward, we do post that to the borough's website. Just as we created a separate tab for the Cunningham Field project, so as we have documents, they'll go on that tab.
Thanks for that, Bill. Okay. Bill, anything else for tonight? That's it. Megan, anything for us tonight?
No comment from Bob or me standing in for Bob, other than thank you for letting me sit in during these meetings as I learn about all the borough processes, and thank you for your patience.
Thanks for rolling up your sleeves with us. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? All right. Then we'll say good night. See you all next week. Thanks so much.